Now we saw Google doing something like that with Google Sets, where they crawl the web, try to make structure out of unstructured pages by looking for lists, by looking for headings for lists. You could type in the name, and I typed in the name of Virginia City or Virginia County, and got all the other 93, 95, whatever counties in Virginia from their list, just by putting the one in. So they were mining ordered lists, unordered lists, things that look like they might be lists with commas after each of the words. They were trying to make sense of those semantically from titles for the lists. They moved on. They had a project called Web Tables, where they did the same type of thing. They tried to identify whether or not a table was for layout only, if it contained data in a tabular form. And they looked at the headings for those, looked at what they contained. They based Google Squared on that for a while, and that's no longer around. But you could go to it, type in the name of a president, and it would give you a spreadsheet with name, date of birth, and so on. We're seeing the information from that supposedly moved into query refinements and query suggestions. But there were a number of papers, white papers, that came out about that, and a few patents. One of the patents said, if we do this with tables, if we collect lots of information, we understand what the different rows, type of data the rows might contain within those tables. If we find another page that has a similar table with very similar looking information, we can add that to that page. We can label it. We can say it contains a table that has date of birth, place of birth, political affiliation, height, weight, spouse name, so on, for all these people based upon other similar tables that we saw. So we know more about this page because of these semantic labels from this other structured data we found on the web elsewhere. So there's a statistical attribution labeling process that came up out of doing something like that. And in some ways that sort of led towards one aspect of the growth of Google's own personal interior knowledge base. There are other papers from Google that talk about large data sets. If you go to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and do a search for patents that are assigned to Google that contain the words large data set, you'll come up with a string of patents that have many of the same authors. And they talk about how they collect information about how people use pages, what query they may have found the page with, and what the documents are that involve those pages. When did the person visit? What was the time? What was the date? What was the year? Whether it was how long they stayed on pages, how far they scrolled down pages. A lot of user-based data that they call triplets because they're looking at the user, the query, and the document, and they're collecting information about those three things. Google's shown a real love for data, and there's a white paper from Google called "The Unusual Effectiveness of Data" that echoes a paper that came out a few years ago called "The Unusual Effectiveness of Mathematics." But the Google paper also has an accompanying video that goes with it that features Peter Norvig, who's one of the heads of research at Google, and he discusses aspects of that paper that maybe don't really make it out in the paper well, but say things like, we can use weaker algorithms and if we have lots and lots and lots of data to go with them, they're as effective as better algorithms.
Let me interject something a minute, Bill, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Tell me if I'm out in left field. First of all, in terms of the data acquisition, I've always believed that Google Plus, for instance, was never intended to be, certainly not a Facebook pillar. I don't think it was even supposed to be a social media platform. It's basically a data harvester, okay? And it gave them an opportunity to tie a lot of entities together, not just Google Plus by itself, but also Google, basically all of its properties. It's gotten to where it's almost impossible to truly log out of Google. You're always, some tentacle has itself wrapped around some part of your body, and you just can't ever quite get off the grid as far as they're concerned. So on the one hand, I see them harvesting a tremendous amount of data, which makes it more easily accomplished to better target their advertising, which lets them increase their revenue, blah, blah, blah. But the other aspect of that is I see that they're also, like we saw with authorship, if you don't do this the right way, we're still going to try to make the connections where we see you and a piece of text with your byline on it. We're going to try to make connections. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. As they develop those algorithms, they have to validate them. They have to see how inaccurate they are in order to dial them in. And having a data set, a big data set, to compare their findings with the data set's findings that is presumably already verified allows them to dial their algos in much more easily, much more accurately, and, as you say, lessen the data load of that algorithm. Make it a much more compact, sleek algo, which allows them to speed up and increase their ability to, within 100 milliseconds, provide you an answer to a relatively complex question. Now, do you think I'm off? Am I reading too much into it? Because I don't see it just as data acquisition. I see them as also using it as a test bed to verify their own accuracy.
There's a lot there what you said, and there are a lot of directions I can take that in. So let me try to jump on some different aspects of it. Okay, so some of the things that we see when it comes to Google Plus is, and I hate when people do this, but I'm going to do it really quick because I don't think that you should quote Eric Schmidt when it comes to any of the algorithms that Google is developing. But he did say, and has said publicly repeatedly a number of times, Google Plus isn't a social network, it's an identity service.
Yep.
And and go back to when I wrote about agent rank for search engine land back in 2007, and I've been, okay, where are these digital signatures? How are they being used? How are they being used to associate content that we create, or that we edit, or that we comment upon, or whatever, with us, with reputations, with some type of reputation score that might be used in addition to PageRank to help rank pages. Google needs to keep on dangling a carrot in front of people to get them to use Google Plus. The latest of those were the in-depth article snippets, where we're being told you need to have semantic markup on your pages for articles, for organizations, so that your logo shows up, and you need the authorship markup so that Google can gauge what level of expertise you might have on a particular subject. And it's not quite agent rank, but it looks like it's attempting to use
closer.
Yeah, our expertise in particular topics and subjects and so on, to determine whether or not we should be the one shown for that. And I think that's tremendous. Now, to verve wildly off in another direction, because the data piece is really interesting, the collection of large data sets. Google looked at a lot of videos recently and was able to come up with what a cat was without being told. Okay, so keep on watching, and the internet revolves around cats, right? So
Yeah, right.
Certainly from Matt's standpoint.
So watching lots of videos and then when Google was shown a picture of a cat, Google understood what a cat was because of all the videos. So let's take that away from videos, away from pictures and images and so on. I wrote a blog post this past week about substitute queries and how if you do a search on a particular term, Google might explore other terms that it may think are related somehow and look at the co-occurring words that show up in search results for those terms and see how close they are to each other. So,
And you think that that's already been implemented to some degree, Bill?
it's hard to tell. I'm guessing that Google was trying to do the same thing with phrase-based indexing in 2005, where it looked for co-occurring phrases in sets of search results. I get the sense that that was something Google was doing with the Orion technology they introduced into expanded search snippets and query refinements or suggestions. In 2009, they announced that on the official Google Webmaster Central blog. So what's really interesting is that Jeffrey Dean from Google co-authored a paper on that process that was cited and linked to at the Google search blog yesterday, where he talks about how the same type of process they use, the deep learning process they use to identify cats in videos, is now being used to look at those co-occurring terms in words. And it's really something new for them, at least at that level. The paper mentioned in the blog post says, you know, we've done this before, but only for millions of words. When with the finer, faster technology that we have, and the ability to do more work with less computational power, we can not only identify cats in videos, we can identify how similar different queries might be. And that's really sort of cutting edge. That's as Google grows in technological capability, as more things get moved to what's a white paper they came out with that had like 26 authors and talked about their data centers.
Yeah. I saw that.
Banner?
I cannot. Gosh, I'm blank, totally blank. But yeah. Well, true that.
Yeah. So you have one planetary-sized computer with data centers all around the world, and you have the computational power of that.
Right.
So, you know, co-occurrence is a useful semantic signal. It's a lot less noisy than a lot of others, including links.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
I'm not sure I want to see another Matt Cutts video on the evils of
I know, huh?
different linking methods anytime soon.